Hello again and welcome to Oklahoma Sports Scene. I'm Chris Lincoln along with the coaches, Gil Cloud and J.V. Haney. Got a great show for us, Coach. We have a great lineup starting with the man who runs Oklahoma Athletics.
I tell you what, Joe Castiglione has done such a wonderful job over the years in taking that program, hiring quality coaches. I'm really excited to see what he says about the future of Oklahoma.
And also on the western side of the state, we got Mike James joining us from the Oklahoma Sports Hall of Fame.
And when you start thinking about the Oklahoma Sports Hall of Fame and the number of great people in athletics have been admitted, and what he does, it's just something that you can't express enough appreciation for him.
Including coming into this 2018 class is Joe Castiglione. We can just talk about that. I got a good friend of mine, Lee Levison, a very prominent attorney in Tulsa, who's also making quite a name for himself in thoroughbred racing. We'll talk to Lee Levison about the Kentucky Derby, the greatest race in American sports. All that's coming up along with a visit by Guerrin Emig. He's an award-winning columnist for the Tulsa World. We'll talk all kinds of sports with Guerrin as well. Guys, hot topics. I guess we can start off, though, with talking about Oklahoma City Thunder in the playoffs, NBA playoffs just getting underway.
You know, and hopefully by the time everybody sees this,
yeah, that's right,
they'll continue to be playing.
Let's hope so. That's right.
You know, it's they started out well, and they had a great last 4 games of the season. You know, when going into those last 4 games, just to make the playoffs, they could either be out or they could be fourth. Well, they ended up being fourth because they went 3-1, and nobody thought they'd go 3-1 with those last 4 games.
And opening home against Utah, boy, Paul George has been on fire for the Thunder early on.
Well, when you start looking at the West, though, what is going to happen when Houston, what's going to happen with Golden State, and when Oklahoma Thunder gets involved with those two, it's going to be, I think it will kind of depress what goes on in the East.
No question. The West is the power in the NBA. Baseball, of course, major leagues are underway when they can get away from the rain and the terribly cold spring we've had all across the nation. More cancellations now in baseball than we've ever had before. Tulsa Drillers open their home season in Tulsa on April the 12th. Our man Thomas Walkingstick from Oklahoma Sports Scene went there to capture some of the excitement of opening night at One Oak Field. When we come back, Joe Castiglione, athletic director of the University of Oklahoma, joins us on Oklahoma Sports Scene presented by Bricktown Brewery.
At Bricktown Brewery, we're known for our famous original craft beers like Single String Stout and Bluesberry Ale. Did you know we also brew our own root beer at our Oklahoma City brewhouse? It's called Attaboy Root Beer, and you'll love it no matter what your age. Just ask for a Bricktown Kids menu with all the favorites for our guests 12 and under. Bricktown Brewery opens every day at 11 a.m.
real barbecue, right? Not some frozen meat cooked who knows where, who knows when, and then trucked in. No, it's got to be the finest cuts. It's got to be a lot of choices, like 9 different meats. It's got to be fast for dine-in, carry-out, or catering. It's got to be smoked fresh right there that day over aged pecan wood. It's got to be the place where all the barbecue wannabes take a back seat, because they can't compete. It's got to be real barbecue, right? It's got to be Billy Sims.
Billy Sims Barbecue. Eat like a champion today.
We welcome you back on Oklahoma Sports Scene, presented by Bricktown Brewery, and could not be more thrilled than to have with us the athletic director of the University of Oklahoma, Joe Castiglione. Joe, great. I can't imagine. It's so difficult to schedule you to come all the way to Tulsa. Thanks so much for being here as part of the show.
Chris, thank you. Good to be with Gil and Jay. I said to JV earlier I needed to meet him down at his favorite restaurant. I'm not sure they're a sponsor, so I don't know if I could say the name on the air.
Meet him at Bricktown Brewery. That's safe.
Yeah, perfect.
Joe, give folks who somehow wouldn't know, you're about to start your 20th year?
I'm about to start my 21st year.
21st.
In a couple of months, yeah. In my 20th year now. Yeah.
Give me your background in athletics. What got you to the University of Oklahoma?
Yeah, well, born and raised in South Florida. Went to school at the University of Maryland. Got an opportunity to get in the ground floor of something. Wasn't my intent on going to Maryland. Started on hearing and speech pathology. But changed my major and got in the ground floor of sports marketing. No one in the college space was doing at the time. My first job was at Rice University, then Georgetown, then Missouri, where we got to know each other. And there 17 years, the last 5 as athletic director. And as we said, it's my 20th year at Oklahoma, and very, very proud to be part of this program. I had one son a year and a half when we got here, and now he's a junior walk-on at the University of Oklahoma, and my younger son, Jonathan, was born in Norman.
Gil, we have a whole group of ADs here. You can relate certainly well to Joe's career here.
Joe, one of the things, and I spent 18 years as a collegiate athletic director at Division II, which is a little more difficult sometimes because we don't have enough money, we don't get any TV money. But what do you see has changed the most as a director of athletics at a Division I school over the past 10 years?
Certainly has to start with the growth of programs. We all keep investing in our programs. We have, even in that 10-year period of time, we had started women's rowing. So we're at 21 sports, 11 of which are women's sports. So the number of student athletes. And of course, with broader sports programs becomes more financial investment, and the demands that are necessary to address to keep the best and the brightest student athletes coming to the program, whether it's facilities, it's scholarships, the other changes in rules, hiring and retaining coaches. All of that makes for a much bigger amount of pressure, on the resources, and that's always an AD's role of finding more and trying to meet the expectations. I remember, when we started here, the expectations weren't quite as large, and of course, when you have the success like we've had, they think it's automatic, and it should be like that every year without even doing any work. But I'm very proud to be part of a great university and be able to have the success like we've had, and not just on the field, but in the classroom as well, and most importantly, make people proud of the way we do it. Not just what we do, but the way we do it.
When you look at everything that goes on at the University of Oklahoma, it just seems like you pick out a particular sport and there's a possibility of a national title. But something that's occurred to me recently has been your girls' fast pitch softball. Holy Moses. That is just, when you start watching that game, you've got to watch every pitch and every out. Does that impact you that way?
No question. It's actually a very fast-growing sport across the country. I'd probably say, internationally as well. Baseball needs to take a page, from softball, in the sense that, that game, generally speaking, is over within a 2-hour period. Mm-hmm. And you feel like you're up close to the teams. They can interact with you a little bit more. Even a 1-0, 2-1 game is very exciting. That ball is flying around. Defense is fantastic. And now with a success under Patty Gasso, and she's won 4 national championships overall, 3 of the last 4 years. We're selling out every game. and looking at expanding our stadium.
You know what I really enjoy about it, though? Now, Patty Gasso's done an impossible job, I think, to what she has done. But as she makes a call on a particular play, whether it be a hit and run or whatever it may be, I agree with her. I mean, she does a fabulous job.
And she stays aggressive.
Yes.
I've seen more squeeze plays. You know, they are the greatest. Not so good when they don't work, but with her, she uses every tool in the bag of trying to put her team in the position to win, and that's why she's put this program in a position to be, amongst the top every year.
As our show runs the next couple of weeks here, we're winding down the 2017-18 school year. I look back, Joe, at this 2016-17 year at Oklahoma. 4 national championships. School ranked at OU a nation-leading 7 over the last 2 years. 18 of 21 sports teams sent full or individuals to NCAA championships, finishing in the top 10. In addition to 4 national champions the season before. Also, of course, the football team, number 3 ranking. We're about to complete the school year, and again, more national championships on the horizon. I am becoming a tremendous fan of Oklahoma gymnastics, both the men's and the women's.
Number 1 in the country, both of them, all year long. And that's a succession from the year before and the year before that. So, again, it's getting great coaches. They, in turn, get the right kind of student athletes and make the University of Oklahoma the place to go. We're going to compete, as we have shown, against the best in the country and try to win those championships. On top of that, Chris, the academic success is also something that we're proud of, but record graduation rates. Now we're 12 semesters straight with an average GPA of 3.0 for our almost 600 student athletes. So that's so again, it's trying to shoot for the most lofty, high goals you want, bold, and then balance it with developing the student athletes for the rest of their life between their academic goals and the kind of person that they become before they leave.
A little less than a year ago, we had a big surprise in Oklahoma. Do we have any more surprises this year?
Yeah. Well, I don't know there, Gil. I didn't know that one either. But
Bob Stoops resigning in June.
Everybody thought we were just sliding into the summer.
The
last
BCS,
year.
remember? That was our famous
Well,
thing.
that's exactly right. I was going to get to that too, because Mr. Chris Lincoln, that inspiration came right from him, and now we have 2 of the 3 now that are announced retirements from the University of Oklahoma.
So
I
one
said
standing, Joe, that's
we
you.
were the last vestiges of the BCS, Guerrin, Castiglione, and Stoops.
Right.
And I kiddingly told David and Bob, I said, you all are going to have one heck of a coffee club. And I always know these coffee clubs solve every problem in the world. And I said, doesn't matter that you're leaving. We're still going to have a lot of problems. You're going to be pointing at me, like, he should do this and he should do that. So invite me over for a cup now and then and tell me the solution that you guys have. It's easy to always identify a problem. Finding the solution is tougher. But yeah, it's big. But both have left an indelible mark on the campus. We're going to be forever indebted to them. But their legacy is one of getting people involved for the ultimate goal, and we're going to certainly carry that on as well.
Well, when you have, 50-some thousand at the spring game, and it was winter, I can't hardly. If it had been a nice spring day, you'd have had 100,000.
It was crazy. Yeah, we'll have to start calling it the Winter Classic. But it was 86 the day before. Of course, that's the way it works. Yeah. But Coach Riley, and by the way, I do think it's important to recognize what Coach Stoops did in his career. The championships in the conference, 10, playing for national championships, obviously winning in 2000. The quality of the players, having so many of them back for that spring game you just mentioned. But the biggest turnout of former players, not just of Coach Stoops' era, but every era. It's amazing. Very important to convey that this is a family around the University of Oklahoma, that no matter how long it's been since you've been to this campus or been here as a student athlete, you're always welcome. We do this intentionally. But Coach Stoops hiring Lincoln Riley in the beginning of 2015, and it wasn't necessarily the succession plan at the time, but we found a gem in Lincoln Riley, and he has done a superb job. And what he did in his first year, like Chris mentioned, and now we've got a quarterback change, or we've got some other position changes, but he's recruited well. Coach Stoops recruited well, and now we're continuing to hopefully recruit well and get this program on a place where it is perennially in the top four.
We come back more with Joe Castiglione. We'll talk about the facilities race, the budgets, and the amount of money the University of Oklahoma Athletics provides the University of Oklahoma education part. That's next on Oklahoma Sports Scene.
Already.
Are you ready? Your room is going to be so cute.
OU is a pace setter in higher education and leads the nation in the number of National Merit Scholars enrolled. Your journey continues here at the University of Oklahoma.
30 years ago, a race began along a quarter-mile of dirt and dreams in Oklahoma City. Today, with the biggest prize money and the best horses, that glittering quarter-mile is home to the best quarter horse racing on earth. Remington Park proudly presents our biggest quarter horse season ever, celebrating 30 years of hard racing fun. World's best, OKC's own, Remington Park.
Celebrate your home today at Bowen's Discount Carpet for our Shop and Compare sale. Take advantage of our guaranteed lowest prices you can find. Great deals on new Shaw floors and a huge variety of brands and colors that you will have to see to believe. Let Shaw Floors spice up your space, along with 36 years of experience, and the beauty of your floors will shine. Come out to Bowen's, where we refuse to be undersold.
Welcome back to Oklahoma Sports Scene, presented by Bricktown Brewery with the athletic director at the University of Oklahoma, Joe Castiglione. Joe, let's talk about facilities and budgets, and it's staggering, and it is a facilities race in college athletics.
Unfortunately, you're right, because once one school does it at a certain level and they become the focus, then the others are going to have to if we're going to compete for the same high-level student athletes. But there is a point of diminishing return, quite candidly, and have to focus on what is best for the individual program. Somebody might tout this or that, and that's irrelevant. What does it do to put the student athletes themselves in a position to train the best for competition, or if it's a facility you also use for competition, that too. We've been able to try to balance both. So it's the attractiveness, it has all the eye candy, that everything needs to have, but it has most function for student athletes. And then we're a privately funded program. We don't have any public support, so no appropriations from the state. Even though they're having trouble funding education, none of that is going to intercollegiate athletics at Oklahoma. No subsidy from the university, and no student fees go to support our athletic program.
How about making my club seats?
Yes.
Okay.
Chris, you're good. Yeah. So that's what we need, and more of it. By the way, I want to see you afterwards. Another gift. But point being that our entire budget, the facilities we build to the operating budget, is revenue that we have to generate on our own, and it's $138 million annually now. Wow. So, but it's by comparison, we're not the highest by any stretch, but we still compete against the best and try to put our program in position to be successful.
Then you pay money back to the university's education fund.
In one way, shape, or form, it's almost $9 million annually. So, you think about that, guys, that's why you're balancing, helping a university. The university is the key. We're just part of the institutional mission. We're just, again, trying to be a good partner.
Is anything going to happen? It's kind of going back on basketball, but is anything going to happen on the where they just sign after 1 year? Are they going to do something like they do in baseball? What is the future of that?
And that's a great question, and now's actually a good time to be talking about it because it's in the public consciousness. It's been discussed for years, JV, but the point now is even the NBA is dealing with, and it's not really the NBA's issue, it's the Players Association issue. And so we think back to the time where if a prospect was going to go straight to the NBA, fine, you go, and like baseball, if you're going to get drafted, you draft and go. If you don't want to go, then go to school for at least 2 years to make it a meaningful attempt at getting yourself further into the higher education. We'd like to see that. But really, when you think about it, it's the mockery that's been made of education. That's the issue. But even paring it down further, you're still only talking about 1-2%. You're talking about maybe 20 kids a year, that are going to fall in that category out of, thousands that are playing college basketball. So I think as long as they can figure a way to fix it but keep it in line, we'll be all better for it.
It's really interesting, I think, and you made that point, Joe, how important it is for athletics to be relevant on a college campus. There are so many things that go on a college campus, and to give money back and to really emphasize the academic portion of a student athlete's life, I think is a key factor.
Well, I know that a lot of our student athletes, on many campuses around the country, are coming and they're thinking about my professional opportunity, my opportunity for an Olympic berth, or whatever it might be. And then, they don't think about what happens if that opportunity is there. So we have to sort of not put any kind of hurdles in front of them of reaching their goals, but give them a wider perspective so they have those kinds of tools. At some point, sports aren't going to be prevalent in their life, at least as it is at this moment. So we want them to be prepared. When they turn around and say, my experience at Oklahoma was the best thing I could have ever done for my life, now we succeed.
That was one of the things we always did the 18 years I spent as the director. I would tell them, while you're at this university, you're going to take a lot of trips. But to me, the most important trip you take is across the stage your senior year. Because college graduates can send me more money than college dropouts.
See, give me that fist bump right there. That's what it is.
I know an athletic director doesn't understand, and people, of course, kind of, how can we pay coaches millions and millions of dollars now? And that's been a thing that, do we reach return or what happens? And yet they certainly earn it and certainly pay it back to the university.
Well, yes, rhetorically, we do ask that question all the time, and the marketplace keeps changing. And it's not incremental anymore. It's all over the place. But yet, if we're going to compete in that marketplace and we're going to retain the best coaches, we get to the point of making a choice. Either do it or they go somewhere else. But at the end of it, Chris, you can only do what is within your own means. There have been times when somebody says, well, I can get this, and I might say, well, we don't want you to leave and don't want to lose you, but this is all we can do. And so it's tough because usually at that point people are very emotional, particularly the fans. But for us, we have our core values that guide our decision. We have the structure in place. We have our culture. And we're paying our coaches at the top of the market, but sometimes it gets unrealistic. But for us, too, we're not taking money from any other program, on campus to do that. We have other kinds of revenue, manufacturer endorsements, radio, television, other kinds of things like that help supply the financial resources to pay coaches. So it's not the same marketplace as, say, a professor, or a dean, that we're not taking away, money that could be for an academic endeavor.
Has attendance overall in all of the sports, has it increased like it has in football?
In some cases, yes. But also, quite candidly, JV, market is changing. Fans still love sports and they still come to some games, but that rabid fan every game, regardless of when it happens, is it's changed a little bit. But fortunately, I go back to Coach Stoops. Every game he coached at Oklahoma sold out, and we've sold out obviously every game last year, and we're trying to keep that streak going. Basketball came up this year. I mentioned softball being sold out. Some of these other sports are growing, but it's different because people have access to so much, you know,
Yeah,
and
that's
they
right.
can get to and a lot of it's on TV.
Yo, congratulations too. They've named you to the college football playoff committee and stuff, so expect OU and OSU to be all set for next year. I know it's a different thing there, but
There's a recusal process.
I remember that. You did a great job through the basketball committee, so what do you think about going on the football committee now?
I'm excited about it. Obviously, football has been great to me personally and early in my career, and it's a very, very special honor, as it was, you know, to be on the NCAA men's basketball committee. And I'm kind of have an idea of the amount of time and how I can organize and balance my time to do my primary job first, and gives me a chance to give something back to the great game of football. So I'm looking forward to it.
We have something to give you, Joe, before you leave us too, making the trip
We
across
talked
the
about
state.
going out to eat, so
right.
Bricktown Brewery.
Bricktown Brewery. Hey, there we go, ladies and gentlemen, right there. This is JV's favorite place now. The other one is gone.
That's right. Joe Castiglione, nobody in college athletics does it any better. Joe, real honor to have you on the show. Keep going to the university, and Becky and I'll keep sending the checks. Looking forward to the football season.
Thank you, guys. Great to be with each and every one of you.
Thank
Real,
you.
a lot
Over
of fun.
sooner. Stay right here while JV tells you about the Greater Tulsa Reporter. JV, what's going on?
Well, it's always a pleasure to talk about the GTR because what Forrest Cameron has done, he has 6 of these editions coming out in metropolitan Tulsa. So wherever you are, you can pick one up. And what they cover inside is everything you might want to know. From sports, Tara Lester does a great job with the sports, also economics, religion, you name it, and you can find it here. And then they have a complete calendar of events that's happening in Tulsa. So what you need to know, you can find out in the GTR.
At Bricktown Brewery, we're known for our famous original craft beers like Single String Stout and Bluesberry Ale. Did you know we also brew our own root beer at our Oklahoma City brewhouse? It's called Attaboy Root Beer, and you'll love it no matter what your age. Just ask for a Bricktown Kids menu with all the favorites for our guests 12 and under. Bricktown Brewery opens every day at 11 a.m.
It's got to be real barbecue, right? Not some frozen meat cooked who knows where, who knows when, and then trucked in. No, it's got to be the finest cuts. It's got to be a lot of choices, like 9 different meats. It's got to be fast for dine-in, carry-out, or catering. It's got to be smoked fresh right there that day over aged pecan wood. It's got to be the place where all the barbecue wannabes take a back seat, because they can't compete. It's got to be real barbecue, right? It's got to be Billy Sims.
Billy Sims Barbecue. Eat like a champion today.
I bring Tulsa's voice to Oklahoma City and Washington. I build relationships with elected officials and community stakeholders to develop policies that grow the Tulsa region. I loved my time at Rogers State University. The personal relationships I developed with professors really helped develop a skill set that would help me serve the Tulsa region that I care about. It all started for me at Rogers State University.
Bricktown Brewery bringing you this edition of Oklahoma Sportscene, and we welcome again another western side of the state guy in Oklahoma City. This is Mike James. He's the executive director, not the new executive director of the really new look, new located Oklahoma Sports Hall of Fame. Mike, welcome to Sportscene.
Thank you.
Give us an idea of the new location and the excitement around our Oklahoma Sports Hall of Fame.
Well, thank you, Chris. First of all, thanks for inviting me on. It's wonderful to be here. It truly is a pleasure. We're excited. The new Oklahoma Sports Hall of Fame Jim Thorpe Museum is going to be located at 20 South Mickey Mantle Drive, which is for those of you that are familiar with the Chickasaw Bricktown Ballpark, it's out in left field. So when people say, Mike, you're out in left field, yes, I am. But it's at the old Coach's Restaurant, and we just finished remodeling and had our grand opening this past Tuesday.
171 inductees. There are 7 in this new class for 2018 to be inducted. And I want to run those down. In fact, we just had Joe Castiglione on the OU Athletic Director is going into the State's Hall of Fame. Jenks High School football coach Alan Trimble, very special inductee. Larry Coker, retired football coach, great friend of Coach Clouds here. OSU 3-time baseball All-American. Robin Ventura, the great career in Major League Baseball as a player and a manager. OU football All-American lineman Ken Mendenhall. BMX bike legend, and this guy's quite a story too, Matt Hoffman. And then the late rodeo cowboy, the legend himself, Bill Bulldog Pickett. I tell you, what a great class, and you got to be excited about that.
It truly is a diverse class of sport and athletics, that's for sure. And the story behind Bill Pickett, and a lot of people, especially today, may not be familiar with who he is. And so to quote Coach Stoops, Google it up because you want to get an idea who Bill Pickett is. But Bill Pickett invented back then what was called bulldogging, which we call now steer wrestling. But one of the unique things about what he would do, and you would think maybe he did it to get the attention of the animal, but when he would come off his horse and tackle that animal, he'd bite it. He'd bite it, whatever he could get a hold of, a nose, a lip, whatever. And there are pictures out there of that. And wrestle that animal to the ground. So that's just, and to think about, back then they didn't wear flak jackets or anything. Man, they just flew off that horse for probably a couple dollars. Wow. But yeah, quite the rodeo legend in Bill Pickett.
You're familiar with Larry Coker, of course.
Larry Coker, obviously, was the only guy to be the offensive coordinator at the University of Tulsa, University of Oklahoma, and Oklahoma State University. And then, of course, went on to be a head coach at Miami and so on. What's one of the great things, Mike, that you do? I know I've been through it a little bit, but talk about the feeling when you call these people and indicate that they're in the Hall of Fame.
It's a real special time because I don't think that we're on the top of their mind when we make the call. You hear about, let's just say, the Professional Football Hall of Fame and probably the Baseball Hall of Fame. You have guys waiting in a room waiting for the call or waiting for the knock on the door. We're calling these ladies and gentlemen out of the blue, just saying, hey, this is who I am and this is why I'm calling. And for a second, they're a little speechless. And I called Coach Coker and I said, Coach, I introduced myself and told him the reason for my call, and he said, "Are you sure?" And he chuckled. I go, "Yes, I'm sure." And and probably one of the most humblest individuals that I've ever met was Coach Alan Trimble. When we had our luncheon meeting, or our Hall of Fame luncheon meeting to introduce the class, and Chris, I believe you were there. Coach Trimble's sitting there, and he said, he goes, "I could think of dozens of other people that deserve to be sitting in this chair, and the fact that I'm being honored is something that's kind of hard to wrap my head around." Mm-hmm. And just what a humble man.
Mike, we talked about this earlier, but I think the public would like to know how you go about preventing maybe all of it becoming one of the major sports, but how do you select the Hall of Fame for the state of Oklahoma?
Coach, that's a great question. I'm glad you asked, because we have a very, we like to think it's strategic, but we have an honors committee of about close to 40 to 50 men and women that are part of this committee. And what we do is we have created some bylaws, if you will, that you can't choose more than 2 people from one school, and you can't choose 2 people from the same sport at that school. So let's just say you have a university that excels in football or baseball or wrestling. You can't choose 2 people from the same sport, and at the same time, you can't choose 2 people from the same school. So if you have, you could have someone from, for an example, let's take this year's class. You have Mr. Castiglione, the athletic director, but then you have Ken Mendenhall, who played football. So that's okay, but you can't have 2 football players, and you certainly can't have 3 people from the same school. So those are some of the steps we put in place, Coach, to try to have a larger, diverse group of people going in from different schools, different sports.
Mike, what's staggering to me too, and I'm on the nomination committee there, and you look at our list of nominees that haven't been put in this Hall of Fame. From the little state of Oklahoma, relatively speaking, we're talking about world champions, Olympic champions, national champions. It's a staggering list. Yeah.
And Chris, to your point, you're on that committee, and you see, we have these conversations, and the funny thing is we look at this list and we go, gosh, can't we just one year just put them all in and start over?
Really?
Because the list keeps growing. But the thing is there are so many deserving people that each year when we announce who the class is, to a degree, we almost feel bad because there are so many deserving people that need to be in that hall.
Well, it's the Oklahoma Sports Hall of Fame, left field at Bricktown Ballpark in Oklahoma City, Tuesday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Great thing is it's free admission. We got something free for Mike's travel across the state.
I'll tell you, Mike,
here.
we're so glad you're here, and since you work in Bricktown,
yes,
and it's right around the corner, Bricktown Brewery.
Well, thank you very much, Coach.
Enjoy a dinner there.
Well, thank you. That's very kind. And gentlemen, thank you for having me. It means a great deal, and I hope that the next time you find yourself in Oklahoma City or in Bricktown, that you'll give a call, let me know you're coming. I'd love to see you. Stop by the ballpark. But thank you for having me. It means a great deal.
And across Oklahoma, get out and see it and support Oklahoma Sports Hall of Fame. You'll be very proud of your state. It's amazing the amount of athletes that this state has produced through the years. Again, Mike James, thanks for being with us on Sportscene. Right back.
Thank you.
At Bricktown Brewery, we're known for our famous original craft beers like Single String Stout and Bluesberry Ale. Did you know we also brew our own root beer at our Oklahoma City brewhouse? It's called Attaboy Root Beer, and you'll love it no matter what your age. Just ask for a Bricktown Kids menu with all the favorites for our guests 12 and under. Bricktown Brewery opens every day at 11 a.m.
I'm Kirk Smith, and this is my story. I'm a captain of TU's track and cross country teams, and I'm a Rhodes Scholar. My life's pretty simple. I run, I work, and then I run some more. My research focuses on combating climate change by driving down the cost of energy storage. And that's my story, so far.
One of the greatest events in American sports is coming up on the first Saturday in May, as it does every year, the Kentucky Derby. With that in mind, we want to welcome in Lee Levison, who had a great Derby experience just a year ago with his thoroughbred Lookin' at Lee. Congratulations, good to have you with us, Lee, and you've got to tell us, how did you get interested in thoroughbred racing?
Well, first, thanks for having me. When I was 10 years old, I was on the way to camp, and at that time, you had to go to St. Louis to catch the train. I went to Minnesota. So my mother and dad took me the night before we left to, I think it was Cahokia
Downs, right off the river there, sure.
And so I go, and my dad gives me some money and gives me like $5. So the last race, before I left, I bet $5 to win on a horse and called Waco Dream. I think that's still the name. And the horse goes off 8-1. I end up leaving the track with about $50. And I thought this is the greatest, easiest thing ever. I didn't want to go to camp. I started crying. And ever since that, I got hooked. But that's a true story.
JV, you and Lee go back a long ways, huh?
Oh, yeah. Well, Lee's father and I were very good friends. And his brother, he played ball for me, but his father was just a tremendous person. But I can just see Lee during that period of time that who would have thought that he's going to have a horse in the Kentucky Derby? Not me. I wouldn't have thought
Me either.
What was that Derby experience like? It's all the build-up. Looking at Lee was his 3-year-old. Was a long shot going to Churchill Downs, and we'll be showing the race in a moment here. But just the build-up that makes this race such a special sporting event.
Well, it's kind of like a Super Bowl. There's 150, 160,000 people there. To get in, it's almost unbelievable. You got 20, 30,000 horses. You got 600 horses that are nominated, would pay a fee. Out of that 620 go. You get there, there's a movie called 50-1 about Mind That Bird that won the Kentucky Derby and you kind of feel that way. You go there, you're an outsider, and they think, you know, what's this Oklahoma yokel doing here? They got all the blue bloods there. And Chris, you've been around it, you know the people there. They spend tens of millions of dollars on horses, if not more. The Sheik, owners of sports teams. You get there and you look around and you say, what am I doing here? And it was just like you couldn't believe being there. And all the people, all the celebrities, you know, you see the trophy, all the jockeys, and it was just an unbelievable, I hope I get there again, but it was something that it's an experience of a lifetime. It's like going to the Super Bowl. Well, unbelievable.
Looking at Lee, went to the post at 33-1 odds on a muddy track in a horrible post position. Post 1, which just is a terrible record in the Kentucky Derby. Let's take a look as they turn for home. Here's the stretch run of last year's, the 2017 Kentucky Derby. Watch for Looking at Lee as he comes off the rail in the, hard to tell, but it's kind of red and black silks.
Always Dreaming is the leader. Battle of Midway fights on between horses. Irish Warcry is there on the outside. McCracken swings wide. Classic Empire does too. And Looking at Lee cut the corner off the turn. They're racing for the final furlong. Always Dreaming digging down deep on a 2-length lead. Looking at Lee wanders off the rail. Now with 3 lengths to make up and a 16th to go. But Always Dreaming is digging down and Always Dreaming is holding on. Looking at Lee can't catch Always Dreaming, who's the 143rd winner of the Kentucky Derby.
Well, Looking at Lee made everybody happy at Churchill Downs who had a bet on the horse because he returned $26.60 on a $2 bet, $15.20 for the show, and his exacta, with Always Dreaming, the winner of the Derby, paid $336.20. Why didn't you tell us this last year, Lee?
Well, I'll be honest, I told people we were going to be there, even though we ran second, I honestly wanted to win. I said, the heck with it, I wanted to win, but it was good to come in second. Everybody was excited.
Half a length, was it? It was
about 2 lengths.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But we were, I think, 5 or 6 or 7 lengths in front of the 3rd place horse. We were out there by ourselves, and there were a lot of good horses in that race, and this year's Kentucky Derby is also going to be, it's going to be a heck of a race. But just to get in that class, it's kind of like being an NCAA championship playoff game, except not having 120 teams, having 20,000. So.
And what's interesting, the horse went on to 4th in the Preakness Stakes. He did all the Triple Crown races, went on to the Belmont Stakes, 7th in the Belmont, ran the Midsummer Derby, the Travelers' Strength. He ran in the highest quality Grade 1 stakes in America last year in your racing colors. That had to be special moments.
It was, and we also ran the Breeders' Cup at the previous November. Yeah. And it's an unbelievable experience. I just can't relate how exciting it was, and believe it or not, how nervous you get before those races. But I feel lucky and privileged to have been there. Just to step in there is almost, it's really special, especially being an Oklahoma horse owner. And other than Mr. Warren and I, Bill Warren, we're probably the only two. The Oxleys have something, but he basically lives in Florida and in Kentucky. So it's kind of, and I also appreciate all the local people that supported us at Fair Meadows and different places. And in fact, they told me, the director of racing there at Will Rogers, after this, they've had more people interested in buying horses. He said we actually helped. So that part was good also.
Who do you think's going to win this year?
Oh, man.
Well, I've seen all of them run. I've watched because for a while I had a horse called Retirement Fund, and I was in the second early betting pool for the Derby. Had a bone chip, so he'll be back. He'll miss the Triple Crown Series. But there's a horse called Mendelssohn that won the UAE Derby over in Dubai, and he won that race 15 lengths faster than anybody in history. Now if he'll come, but he is a half to a horse called Beholder that will be a champion, also a horse called Into Mischief. They paid $3 million for him as a yearling, and a tremendous horse. There's a horse called Justify, and the trainers I've talked to think he's the one to beat. But in the Kentucky Derby betting, what you want to watch, and this is really important, watch the post position draw on that Wednesday. If you're in the middle, like the 5, 6, or 7 in the middle, you have a distinct advantage over one sometime on the inside or way on the outside, because in a race of that caliber, being on the outside might cost you 5 lengths. So it can make a lot of difference. So watch the post position.
Give us an update on Looking at Lee's now moved to his 4-year-old, his handicap division, and just ran recently at the end of the Oaklawn meeting.
He ran 5th in the Oaklawn handicap. He had 2 races before
Bill
that.
Bill Warren won, right?
Yes, he did. City of Lights, great horse. He's won 3 graded races in a row.
Wow.
And that's hard to do.
That's for sure.
But we ran a lot better than the previous 2. He had some throat surgery. He had a breathing problem. That's why he didn't run well in the Travers. But he's coming back hopefully, and he'll go to Churchill Downs and probably have an allowance race. Hopefully he'll be back in the handicap circuit by June or July. So he's doing okay.
Lee, we've got something for you to thank you for being here with us. Lee Levison of L&L Racing.
We sure want you to go to Bricktown.
Oh,
enjoy
thank
yourself
you.
at Bricktown.
Very good. Thank you.
Hey, thanks for joining us on
Thank you.
Sportscene. Right back with a very special guest, award-winning columnist, the Tulsa World, Guerrin. Stay with us.
30 years ago, a race began. along a quarter mile of dirt and dreams in Oklahoma City. Today, with the biggest prize money and the best horses, that glittering quarter mile is home to the best quarter horse racing on earth. Remington Park proudly presents our biggest quarter horse season ever, celebrating 30 years of hard racing fun. World's best, OKC's own, Remington Park.
At Rogers State University, we keep things personal.
It all starts here.
We make sure our graduates get the most out of their education.
RSU has campuses in Claremore, Bartlesville, and Pryor, with on-campus housing and a wide variety of programs to suit your needs.
It all starts here.
Rogers State University.
Welcome back to Oklahoma Sports Scene, and we have a really special guest today. Not many times do you get to have the Sports Writer of the Year, but Guerrin Emig from the Tulsa World is our special guest today. And congratulations, Guerrin. We're glad to have you.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be back and in good company. I need this company more often, actually. So thank you for having me on.
I know your product is a TPS
TPS, you know, a Booker T product.
Right,
and,
that's
we've
right.
turned out a lot of great people from Booker T.
No kidding.
And all of our other 8 schools. And and what do you think about Booker T joining the Frontier Conference?
It's going to be interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
It might take a little getting used to a transition. I know a lot of people are hoping, as that got out around the end of the basketball season, a lot of people are hoping that they continue to play such great hoops against Tulsa Memorial. Two of the, I think, best programs, maybe the 2 top programs in the state right now, regardless of class. And it'd be a shame if the conference affiliation got in the way of that rivalry. But I think the Hornets will be fine. I just hope that they continue to play some of the best other programs in TPS moving forward.
I think that's one of the things that we were concerned about. You
Yeah.
know, when their administration came to me and asked about that, Guerrin, you have to. We've got 9 schools,
Right.
And I have to worry about 9. I don't worry about just 1 or 2.
Sure,
You know,
yeah.
but where they are and where they're going to be enrollment-wise, they're going to be in that 5A, 6A all the time, and it doesn't really help them to play down in 5A and 4A as far as the strength of schedule.
Yeah.
So that was one of the considerations, I think.
No doubt.
You know, one of the things that always comes up in my mind here, that here you were selected as the Sports Writer of the Year. Do you ever miss covering a game?
Yes, JV. Yes, I do. I loved going to games, and in high school games. Years ago, I would go to Norman High, Norman North games at the Norman Transcript before the Tulsa World decided to hire someone to cover the Sooners in Norman for the first time. And to me, there's nothing like Friday nights in the fall, especially as the weather changes and you get a little chill in the air and the games get important. And my favorite event of the year was the state basketball tournament. I bring up Booker T and Memorial, but there was nothing like being basically on the road for 3 weeks trying to figure out where you were going to be from one night to the next, and who the opponent was going to be, and what kind of venue you might end up in. So I do miss the games, and specifically, JV, I miss the high school games. I mean, it's the Sooners and Cowboys and Golden Hurricane are a lot of fun to cover, but there's something about Friday nights and in the fall especially.
Here, talk about you finally got you back here to Tulsa after 17 years in Norman.
Yeah.
Now as a columnist, though, in a wide range, but it's been a very emotional time. Excuse me. Choked up thinking about it.
I know how you feel. I've choked up several times thinking about it.
Alan Trimble and then Bob Stoops.
Yeah, they both sort of were the center of attention, weren't they, the last several days, with Alan's official retirement from Jinx, and then all the pomp and circumstance surrounding Stoops and the statue unveiling and having the players back and his assistant coaches back in Oklahoma City and Norman over the weekend. You talk about fortunate. I think we take for granted how fortunate we've been to be in the midst of 2 coaching giants on the high school and college level here in Tulsa with Alan, and certainly over in Norman with Bob. I'm just happy that both are handling their situations. They're 2 different situations, I realize, but handling their next chapter, so to speak, gracefully. And we'd expect nothing less. They're both terrific men, not just great coaches, but terrific men. But to see them at ease, I think is the best way I can put it, with the next phase of their lives and what they're doing is good to see.
You know, the first year is always the toughest year once you walk away from it.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I did that 41 years ago. Again, I was coached for 7 years, and that first year you want to be involved, but you don't want to be in the way.
Yeah.
And that's one of those difficult things. I thought Coach Stoops did a great job. And of course, Coach Riley accepted him as a part of the program too. You know, and
Yes.
and that's a difficult situation sometimes.
That could have been tense and tough to manage for both guys. But because they had the relationship with Lincoln joining the staff a couple of years ago, I think that helped. And Riley's got a good touch and a good feel for people and how to not just manage players and assistant coaches, but egos and personalities. And he knew exactly what to do with Bob and how to manage that transition. And it has been about as seamless as you can imagine.
You know, June 23rd is going to be a big day, a big night for the Tulsa world as they recognize the Northeast Oklahoma high school athletes. Give us your impression of this.
Well, again, I love anything that involves high school kids, especially in the metro in Tulsa. It's what someone just referred to it as sort of the final. I think it was Alan actually at his retirement. He referred to high school coaching as sort of the final frontier of coaching because it's so pure still. The idea is that you can really reach kids and have a difference in their lives. And sort of celebrate sports for what it was meant for to begin with, you know, before things get in the way. And that's sort of what that night is about. I think we get to celebrate the impact that coaches and teachers, because let's not, there's a lot of teachers in the room when you bring coaches together, the impact that they can make on their students and athletes. And of course, it's great to honor those who play the sports. And it's a difficult time. I'm not saying anything new here that people don't realize for high schools and education in the state, public education in particular, and anything we can do to promote good work being done, important work being done, and some accomplishment in high school sports, I'm all for.
Coach, have something for him?
Yes, I do. Guerrin, and you brought your wife here with you today, and I want you to take her out to dinner tonight at Bricktown Brewery.
Oh, she would. I think she would enjoy that.
I think she would.
I think I'll enjoy it more, but I think Christy would like that as well. Thank you so much.
You bet. We're glad you're here.
Say goodbye while I choke to death here, Coach.
We will be back after all these. Chris, do you need a nurse?
Hey, where's Miss Becky? I need a nurse. That's right. Parting shots coming up so I can get back together here. Stay with us.
At Bricktown Brewery, we're known for our famous original craft beers like Single String Stout and Bluesberry Ale. Did you know we also brew our own root beer at our Oklahoma City brew house? It's called Attaboy Root Beer, and you'll love it no matter what your age. Just ask for a Bricktown Kids menu with all the favorites for our guests 12 and under. Bricktown Brewery opens every day at 11 a.m.
Ditchwitch, 5 words or less.
Making the impossible possible.
Technology you can't live without.
Most versatile equipment ever made.
Customer service and support.
Reliable, productive, ground chewing machines.
We're in this together.
On Oklahoma Sports Scene, we always look forward to our Remington Report. They had a record setter at Remington. Let's join Dale Day.
Midway through the Remington Park season, and the horse racing stars really starting to come out with record-breaking opportunities on the line. Painted Turnpike, the all-time leading money earner in the history of paint horse racing, made his first start of the season on Friday, April 13th, hoping for a lucky result. Trained by Matt Whitekiller, Painted Turnpike entered the Paul Harbor Memorial for Paints and Appaloosas, tied with quarter horse Country Chicks Man, for most Remington Park wins during the quarter horse, Paint, and Appaloosa season, each with 10 victories in OKC.
Just another, I guess, notch in your hat, but it's all for him, you know, because he's earned it. It's just, we are just blessed to be a part of him because he's just a spectacular horse, and like Cody said many times, you just got to stay out of his way, you know, and keep him happy.
The 5-year-old horse took on a full field of rivals in the 350-yard event, looking for a record 11th win at Remington Park. They're off in the Paul Harbor Memorial Stakes. Painted Turnpike with a good enough start, puts a nose out front, just a bug battles on. Colonel Buxton to the inside. BPA Political Sun. Painted Turnpike is now clear by a length, and Painted Turnpike is going to do it Win number 11 at Remington Park, making history for the most wins in this season. Painted Turnpike has the mark. Painted Turnpike not only won a record 11th race at Remington Park, the most ever in the history of the sprint season, he also picked up his 9th consecutive victory. His nearly unblemished career record is something trainer Matt Whitekiller is proud to be associated with.
It's quite an honor, because, horses like this only come through your life one time, and everybody be beating their heads together to try to find one like him.
Painted Turnpike is expected to make 2 more starts this season at Remington Park, aiming for the Mr. Louis Memorial on May 18 and the National Cowboy Western Heritage Museum Stakes on June 1st. There are still plenty of big racing opportunities and event days coming at you here at Remington Park as the season rolls on through June 2nd. Don't forget, Kentucky Derby Day, Saturday, May 5th. Special racing at Remington Park begins at noon on that Saturday. In Oklahoma City at Remington Park, I'm Dale Day. Now back to Sports Scene.
And as we come down the stretch now in the show, it's time for our parting shots. Coach Cloud leads us off.
I want to say a bit of gratitude to all of the teachers in the state of Oklahoma who sacrificed for a couple of weeks and went to the Capitol for our kids. I think it's very important that the legislature respond to what they heard and what they saw, and we continue to advocate for our teachers and our students. I think it's very important that we've gotten halfway there. We're not all the way there yet because, as we said from day one, operational funds are as important as raises. It's great to have a raise, but if you can't buy textbooks for your students, you're not doing anything more than just biding time. So let's stay after it. Teachers, congratulations. You did a great job. Legislature, let's get busy.
J.B. Haney's about to be honored with a very special event in his name.
Really, Northeastern Oklahoma A&M College in Miami sponsors this golf tournament called Puddin-Haney Golf Tournament. And that goes back to my 2 years on campus, 51, 53. But for those of you who have had any involvement whatsoever with Miami or with NEO, I think you would enjoy playing in the tournament. It will be played at Cherokee Hills Golf Course Monday the 23rd in the afternoon. So if you're interested in helping the NEO A&M athletic department, and so many people in the metropolitan area of Tulsa have been a part of it, then give their athletic department a call and play golf again, April the 23rd at Cherokee Hills.
Wait. Tell us about pudding. Well, how's the pudding with J.B. Haney?
Well, I was so sweet.
I should have known that.
Well, that's what I was told.
Thank you, Coach. All right, J.B. Haney. My parting shot has to do with one of the great sporting events coming up, always on the first Saturday of May. That is, of course, the Kentucky Derby. We run this time for the 144th time, going back to 1875. I've been part of the Kentucky Derby, but my first one was 1987. Haven't missed very many since. And it truly is one of the bucket list events of any sports fan. What makes the Kentucky Derby so unique to me is it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Only once in a thoroughbred life as a 3-year-old does he get a chance to run in the Kentucky Derby. That means he has to overcome all of the opportunities to get injured, all of the bad breaks from racing, and have the chance to be one of those 20 in the starting gate at Churchill Downs on that first Saturday in May. And I tell you, there's nothing quite like it. It's $25,000, by the way, to enter your horse in the Kentucky Derby. Another $25,000 for your horse to start out of the gates in the Kentucky Derby. The reward, yes, the purse is over $1 million now. The gold trophy is over $25,000 in value, but it truly is priceless. And I want to give you fans, as you think about your Kentucky Derby party, an opportunity to get some handicapping insight from a guy who's been to the Derby for so many years and spent so much time, over a quarter of a century, in thoroughbred racing. This is a no-fail, and I give this to everybody. You will always get the winner of the Kentucky Derby. Here's what you do. You take $2, bet $2 to run on each horse. You're going to win the Kentucky Derby. That is priceless. Hope you enjoyed being with us on Oklahoma Sports Scene. Thanks to having so many great guests and had a great time. I hope you enjoyed it as well. See you next time. Oklahoma Sports Scene. See you in May enjoying the Kentucky Derby.